Another day, another page in the litany of anti-Semitic incidents that Jeremy Corbyn has been involved in, accused of. Jeremy Corbyn was photographed laying a wreath at the grave of Osama bin Laden, which is underwater somewhere in the Pacific Ocean. Jeremy Corbyn was seen shaking hands with Abu Hamza. Jeremy Corbyn also laid a wreath at the grave of Black September terrorists in Tunisia.
Good afternoon. I'm Jim McKay speaking to you live at this moment from ABC headquarters just outside the Olympic Village in Munich, West Germany. The peace of what have been called the Serene Olympics was shattered just before dawn this morning, about 5 o'clock.
If you watched the drama unfold live, if you're old enough as it was unfolding live on TV in 1972, or if you watched the documentaries years later, as I did, and found the whole story very, very captivating, when Black September, this Palestinian militant group, stormed the Olympic Village in Munich in 1972 and took captive several members of the Israeli Olympic team. And that's the background to this latest Jeremy Corbyn debacle. And these Black September militants, who were an offshoot of the PLO, the Palestine Liberation Organization, stormed the Olympic Village in Munich and took 9 Israeli members of the Olympic team hostage. And apparently, when the first attack was unfolding, the first Israeli athlete that they got hold of, the quick-thinking Israeli athlete, led the terrorists or the freedom fighters, take your pick. He led them to the Olympic wrestling team and the Olympic weightlifting team, thinking that maybe they'd have a chance to overpower their captors. Whichever side you're on, that 1972 Olympic, the siege that went on and the attack is very, very captivating and exciting. And I remember being very intrigued in my early teens when I was first getting interested in the Palestine issue. I watched the documentary. I rented it from the library on VHS. I rented a documentary about the 1972 Olympics, and I thought, wow, did this really happen? And I was always, from my upbringing, sympathetic to the Palestinian side, but the way the documentary portrayed it and the brutality with which they went in.
Israeli hostages and the Arab commanders who have held them hostage for this entire day.
The Olympics should be a time where you step outside politics. And obviously these Palestinians had seized the Olympics as an opportunity to bring their politics to the front pages. Latif Afif was killed in the operation, and he was the go-between, the negotiator in this hostage situation. And anyone who's seen the footage will remember it was very iconic. He came out with a hat and his face all blacked out. And he was very eloquent, very calm, very intelligent, and he set out their demands very clearly. And in the end, there was a botched attempt at rescuing the 9 Israeli hostages, and that famous scene with the American reporter saying, "They're all gone."
9 were killed at the airport tonight. They're all gone.
All 9 hostages have been killed. And it was very significant that this was the Munich Olympics. And it was the first time the Olympics had been held in Germany since the 1936 Berlin Olympics, which we all remember was a Nazi propaganda fest. And Jesse Owens famously put to bed Hitler's myth of the Aryan master race with a black man dominating on the track. So for Germany to host the Olympics again, they had to show the world that they had completely turned it around and were no longer a racist, fascist state. And it was very embarrassing for the German authorities in a country that had to shift itself from being militaristic and regimented and strict to being a relaxed and open society that was not visibly militarized and militant. And it was very embarrassing, the thought for the Germans that perhaps they had allowed this tragedy to happen to the only Jewish country, the only entirely Jewish team in the Olympics. So, Latif Afif, what do we know about him? Well, he was a Palestinian, of course, a member of Black September. His father was a rich Christian Palestinian from Nazareth. And his mother was a Jewish woman. Now, in Jewish tradition, that makes him a Jew. And under Israeli law, that entitles him to Israeli citizenship. But he was a Palestinian. And there were many thousands of Palestinian Jews, Jews who were in the region before 1948, before the establishment of the State of Israel. And it is a sad, sad fact that Palestine has lost that section of its identity. Latif Afif, son of a Jewish mother and a Christian father, a Palestinian freedom fighter. Around the time that Black September were carrying out their operations, the PFLP were also active, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which one of the founding members was a Christian, George Habash. And of course the PLO, of which Yasser Arafat was the leader. He always made it clear that it was a nationalist struggle, and he would say, we will fly the Palestinian flag from our churches and our mosques. And he always mentioned churches first. He always included the Christian population as part of the Palestinian nation, and of course he married a Christian. So it's very sad that the Palestinian struggle has warped from a nationalist struggle of Christians and Muslims and even Jewish Palestinians, as we mentioned, struggling for freedom and for a country for all members of all faiths in the Holy Land. And that's what the struggle should be about. And I think that plays in to the hands of Zionists and Israel supporters who want to portray this as a religious conflict. They want to reduce it to a religious conflict and say, how can you expect us to negotiate with Islamic extremists? Their demands are unacceptable. So it's all divide and conquer. They don't want Fatah and Hamas to unite together. They don't want Christians and Muslims and Jews to unite together. They want to keep us divided. And they definitely don't want you to vote for Jeremy Corbyn.